This is speech practice for myself. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Book 1. From my grandfather Versus, I learned good morals and freedom from anger. From the reputation and memory of my father, modesty and manly character. From my mother, piety and kindness, and abstinence, not only from evil deeds, but even from evil thoughts. And father, simplicity in my way of living, far removed from the habits of the rich. From my great-grandfather, not to have frequented public schools, and to have had good teachers at home, and to know that on such things a man should spend liberally. From my tutor, to be neither of the green nor of the blue party at the games in the circus, nor a partisan either of the Parmularius or the Scutarius at the gladiators' fights. I also learned endurance of labor from him, and to have few wants, and to work with my own hands, and to not meddle with other people's affairs, and to be unwilling to listen to slander. From Diogenetus, not to busy myself with trivial things, and to not give credit to what was said by miracle workers and charlatans about incantations of the exorcism of demons and such things, and not to breed quarrels for fighting, nor to give myself up passionately to such things, and to endure freedom of speech, and to have become intimate with philosophy, and to attend the lectures first of Bacchius, then Tandasis, and Martianus, and to have written dialogues in my youth, and to have desired a plank bed with an animal skin cover, and whatever else of kind belongs to the Grecian discipline. From Rusticus, I received the impression that my character required improvement and therapy, and from him I learned not to be led astray into the emulation of sophists, nor to write on speculative matters, nor to deliver little moralizing speeches, nor to show off as a man who practices much discipline, or to perform benevolent acts in order to make a display, and to abstain from rhetoric and poetry and fine writing, and not to walk about in a house in my ceremonial attire, nor to do other things of the kind, and to write my letters with simplicity, like the letter which Rusticus wrote from Sinuessa to my mother, and with respect to those who have offended me by words, or done me wrong, to be easily disposed to be pacified and reconciled, as soon as they have shown a readiness to be reconciled, and to read carefully, and not to be satisfied with a superficial understanding of a book, nor hastily to give my assent to those who talk overmuch. And I am indebted to him for being acquainted with the discourses of Epictetus, which he communicated to me out of his own collection. From Apollonius, I learned freedom of will, and and from Apollonius I learned freedom of will and undeviating steadiness of purpose. and to look to nothing else, not even for a moment, except to reason, and to be always the same, in sharp pains, on the occasion of the loss of a child, and in long illness, and to see clearly in a living example that the same man can be both most resolute and yielding, and not irritable in giving instruction, and to have had before my eyes a man who clearly considered his experience and his skill in expounding philosophical principles at the least of his merits. And from him I learned how to receive what are considered favors from friends, without being either humbled by them or letting them pass unnoticed. From Sextus, a benevolent disposition, and the example of a family governed by a fatherly manner, and the idea of living comfortably to nature, conformably to nature, and gravity without affection, and to look carefully after the interests of friends, and to tolerate ignorant persons, and those who form opinions without consideration. He had the power of readily accommodating himself to all, so that conversation with him was more agreeable than any flattery. And at the same time, he was most highly venerated by those who associated with him, and he had the ability both to discover and organize in an intelligent and methodical way the principles necessary for life, and he never showed anger or any other passion, but was entirely free from passion, and also most affectionate, and he could express approval without noisy display, and he possessed much knowledge without calling attention to it. From Alexander the Grammarian, to refrain from fault finding, and not to correct or reproach those who uttered any barbarous or strange sounding expressions or solecism, but adeptly to introduce the very expression which ought to have been used, while repaying or giving confirmation or engaging in an inquiry about the topic itself rather than the word, or by some other tactful means of suggestion. From Fronto I learned to observe what envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant, and that generally those among us who are called patricians are rather deficient in paternal affection. From Alexander the Platonist, not to say to anyone frequently or without necessity, or to write in a letter that I have no time to spare, nor continually to excuse the neglect of duties required by our relation to those with whom we live, by claiming to have more urgent business. From Catullus, not to be indifferent when a friend finds fault, even if he should find fault without reason, but to try to restore him to his usual disposition, and to be ready to speak well of teachers, as it is reported of Domitius and Athenodotus, and to love my children truly. From my brother Severus, to love my kin, and to love truth, and to love justice, and through him I learned to know Thoracea, Helvidius, Cato, Dio, Brutus, and from him I received the idea of a political state in which there is the same law for all, one administered with regard to equal rights and equal freedom of speech, and the idea of a kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed. I learned from him also consistency and undeviating steadiness in my regard for philosophy, and a disposition to do good, and to give to others readily, and to cherish good hopes, and to believe that I am loved by my friends. And in him I observed no attempt to conceal his opinions with respect to those of whom he disapproved, and that his friends had no need to speculate about what he wished or did not wish, but it was quite plain. From Maximus I learned self-mastery, and not to be led aside by anything, and cheerfulness in all circumstances, as well as in illness, and a good mixture of gentleness and dignity in one's character, and to do what was set before me without complaining. I noticed that everybody believed that what he said was what he thought, and that in all that he did, he never had any bad intention, and he never showed amazement and surprise, and he was never in a hurry, and never put off doing a thing, nor was perplexed, nor dejected, nor did he ever laugh in disguise his vexation, nor, or on the other hand, was he ever of kindness. No, wrong. Nor, on the other hand, was he ever passionate or suspicious. He was accustomed to perform acts of kindness, and was ready to forgive, and was free from all falsehood. And he gave the appearance of a man who could not be diverted from the right path, rather than of a man who had to be set right by others. I observed, too, that no man could ever think that he was looked down upon by Maximus, or ever venture to think himself a better man. He had also the art of being humorous in an agreeable way. In my adoptive father, the Emperor Antonius Pius, I observed mildness of temper, an unchangeable resolution in the things which he had determined after due deliberation, and no vanity regarding these things which men call honors, and a love of hard work and perseverance, and a readiness to listen to those who had anything to propose for common good, an undeviating firmness in giving to every man according to his deserts, and knowing from experience when to undertake action vigorously and when to relax. And I observed that he had overcome all passion for boys, and he considered himself no more than any other citizen, and he released from his friends from all obligation to dine with him or to attend him when he traveled, and those who had failed to accompany him by reason of any urgent circumstances also always found him the same. I also observed his habit of careful inquiry in all matters of deliberation, and his persistence, and that he never stopped his investigation through being satisfied with appearances which first present themselves, and that his disposition was to keep his friends and not to become quickly tired of them, nor to be extravagant in his displays of affection, and to be satisfied on all occasions, and cheerful, and to anticipate events in the distant future, and to provide for the smallest without delay, and immediately to put a stop to popular applause and all flattery, and to be consistently watchful over the things which were necessary for the administration of the empire, and to be good manager of public expenditure, and patiently to endure the blame which he got for such conduct. He was neither superstitious with respect to the gods, nor did he court men by gifts, or by trying to please them, or by flattering the populace, but he showed sobriety in all things and firmness, and never any mean thoughts or actions, nor love of novelty for its own sake, and the things which contributed in a way to life's comfort, and of which fortune gives an abundant supply, he used without arrogance and without apology, so that when he had them, he enjoyed them without affectation. And when he did not have them, he did not desire them. No one could ever say of him that he was neither a sophist, or servile, or pedant, or a pedant. Pedant. Few ways you can say this one. But everyone acknowledged him to be a man of maturity and accomplishment above flattery, able to manage his own and other men's affairs. Besides this, he honored those who were truly philosophers, and he did not reproach those who pretended to be philosophers, nor yet was he easily led by them. He was also natural in conversation, and he made himself agreeable without any offensive affectation. He took appropriate care of his body's health, not like one who is overly attached to life, nor out of personal vanity, nor yet in a careless way, but so that, through his own attention, he very seldom stood in the need of the aid of physician or of medicine or external treatment. He was most ready to give way without envy to those who possessed any particular ability, such as that of eloquence or knowledge, of the law of morals, or of anything else. And he gave them his help, so that each might enjoy a reputation according to his deserts. And he always respected the institutions of his country, without any affection of doing so. Further, he was not fond of change nor unsteady, but he loved to stay in the same places, and to engage himself in the same activities, and after being seized by his headaches, he came back immediately fresh and vigorous to his usual occupations. His secrets were very few and exceptional, and only about public matters, and he never showed prudence and economy in an exhibition of public spectacles and the construction of public buildings, his donations to the people, and in such things, for he was a man who looked to what ought to be done, not to the reputation which is obtained by one's acts. He did not bathe at inappropriate hours, he was not fond of constructing buildings, nor fussy about what he ate, nor about the texture and the color of his clothes, nor about the beauty of his slaves. His clothing came from Lorium, his villa on the coast, and from Lanuvium generally. We know how he behaved to the toll collector at Tusculum, who asked his pardon, and such was his behavior in general. There was in him nothing harsh, nor impeccable, nor violent, nor, as one might say, anything carried the sweating point. Anything carried to the sweating point. but he examined all things individually, as if he had plenty of time, and without confusion, in a methodical way, vigorously and consistently. And that might be said of him, which is recorded of Socrates, that he was able both to abstain from and to enjoy those things which many are too weak to abstain from and cannot enjoy without excess, but to be strong enough both to bear the one and to be sober in the other is the mark of a man who has a perfect and invincible soul, such as he showed in the illness of Maximus. That was my practice for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you're interested, there will be more, so subscribe, because I decided that it is good to practice speech in various ways. I even feel my jaw after all of these tongue twisters. Blessings be upon you, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.